Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Magued and Nikhaily, and it's a great pleasure to welcome you all to our panel. We are here today to explore one of the most crucial topics shaping our industry in the future. The session is titled as Navigating Disruption, Driving Innovation, and Unlocking Opportunity. But first, let me welcome our distinguished panelists who are senior leaders in our industry. Mr. Poul Hestbaek, CEO of Folk Maritime. Mr. Marwan Shazly, VP and Contract Pen Marine Group. Engineer Tariq Zaghloul, CEO, CMA, Egypt and Sudan Cluster. Engineer Marwan Samak, Managing Director, Egypt, Hapag-Lloyd, and Chairman of Ship and Crew, Egypt. Also, we have Mr. Gary Chung, CEO, Hutchison Port, Egypt. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining the panelists. Let's start by discussing one of the major issues which we are currently witnessing in our industry, which is related to the geopolitical disruption which we are facing. My first question now to Engineer Tariq Zaghloul. How have the Red Sea disruption reshaped fleet deployment and cost restructure?
Hello, good day everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and with those distinguished colleagues. Red Sea situation reshaped the deployment of the fleet. So going through the Cape of Good Hope consumed more vessels, because if you're deploying 6 vessels in one service, to go through Cape of Good Hope, at least you need 2 more services. This has increased the lead time, disrupted the supply chain for the first couple of months. The first 3 months was almost complete chaos, but this became a little bit structured because it's almost now 2 years.
Do you foresee that the situation will be a little bit in a better shape in the coming year onwards?
I think unless the IMO declares that Red Sea is not a war zone anymore, which is impacting the insurance, it will take time for the lines to come back. But the pressure the lines are facing to come back because of the logistic disruption is mounting. So I think we can see something in Q1 or Q2. As CMA CGM, we never stopped crossing Suez Canal. We are still crossing as much as we can because it's a better lead time and it gives better service to our clients.
Absolutely. So, talking about the shipping lines, I would like also to ask Engineer Marwan Samak, especially regarding Hapag-Lloyd, Engineer Marwan. What are the operational adjustments which the shipping line has done to maintain reliability and network efficiency?
Yeah, under the Red Sea situation, yeah. I think the disruption was abrupt because when the hitting started by the Houthis, that had compelled all shipping lines to avoid that route. And at the beginning, ships were transiting around the Cape of Good Hope in 20 to 30 days more. That and other ships were already in the North continent, finishing their operations and returning. So something like Egypt, where we are in the last east end of the Mediterranean, we found that we had a void of ships on the ship systems going to Middle East and back, and Asia and back. It lasted around 30 days. That has created a lot of challenges. We had lots of empties that are returning back without any way to get deployed to the Far East, or use of exports. And we had our customers that needed to find a solution, and we had no solution for that. The operation capacity of terminals in the West Mediterranean collapsed. It was not able to receive all the ship systems that were coming and going from Asia, and the adjustment took lots of months, and collapse of operations, and ships waiting outside of the ports and trying to find other terminals. It took long until this got decluttered. Now we can see, as my colleague Tariq Zaghloul had said, that we had the challenge of having more ships to be deployed, more containers to be deployed, and longer transit times. And we also saw the emergence of shipping lines that are opportunistic to serve directly Sokhna and other trades, Middle East, and now also from Asia to the Red Sea and beyond to the Mediterranean. So now we see a bit of stability in the system, and we just see how this will open up. If we look at an open Red Sea situation under different conditions, that means that shipping lines will need to plan at least 3 to 6 months to go back. They will not just run back at the beginning. They will plan their routes, they will plan the deployment of the ships, and they will not want to collapse operating capacities of terminals and ports. So this will take more time and more rationale and discussions also between shipping lines and terminals to establish such return. So the disruption is not small.
Absolutely. Mr. Poul, do you agree? Do you agree that this, the disruption is really affecting the feeder service and local marine?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what we have is that the big international shipping lines, they started coming into the Red Sea from the north because they couldn't go through Bab al-Mandab, with the exception of a few CMA vessels. At the same time, there was newcomers, kind of like fly-by-night lines that came through Bab al-Mandab who did not have any issues crossing Bab al-Mandab. They came in, so they're like a new player that is here as long as the others can't go back. The day that the others, the big global lines can come back, then all these newcomers, they'll be gone again. Their ships are too small, they cannot compete, but they are there for the time being. So what has happened is that flow change has, of course, given new dimension to the feedering in the Red Sea, which is one of the elements that Folk Maritime is helping our customers on. What we have also seen is that there's also a trading shift, that you see some commodities, because what happened, regardless of whether cargo is coming from the south on these new temporary lines or all the way through Africa and in from the north, cargo freight has gone up because costs have gone up. And there are a number of commodities that are low values that cannot take that freight. They're very freight sensitive. So we also see some of those commodities, they are now coming from different sources. So that there's a trading shift, there is a shift of new players that are here for short term, and then that has given opportunities for feedering for companies like Folk Maritime. We have our vessels on the Saudi flag, so we can cross Bab al-Mandab, so we are there to do it safely. But most of them have had to go via the north, back into the Red Sea.
Absolutely. I mean, very, very interesting what you have said as well, Paul. And that lead me as well to raise my question now to Marwan. We have witnessed the new services which Pan Marine has done, especially related to the RoRo solutions and the new corridor which the country now is opening in the recent days. Can you elaborate a little bit about that, and would this maybe be a possible solutions for the current disruption?
First of all, thank you so much for having me today. It's a pleasure being here with you all. I think the new RoRo service that Egypt established, which is mainly connecting us with Europe, can can be a new corridor to connect like Europe through Egypt to Middle East. Since the disruption of the Red Sea, you could see a lot of long transit times if you're connecting Europe, or mainly Central Europe, south of Europe, to the Middle East. It could take now more than 60 days. Using our Ro-Ro line, for example, and even connecting through Egypt current RoPax or Ro-Ro lines in the Red Sea connected by Safaga to Neom, this of course can lead to decrease the transit time. If you're comparing now, for example, if you're doing Poland to Jebel Ali, it will take you around 60 plus days if you're doing it through Cape of Hope. But in case you do it like with Ro-Ro, it will take you around 11 days. This will support and will make accessibility in this region easier for European and Middle East market. We all learned through different crises, whether COVID, whether the Red Sea, the war in Israel, or like in Palestine, or Ukraine and Russia, that the cargo will always find the route. The cargo will never stop. The trade is there, everyone will always find solution. As you said, new lines will find their way, new opportunities. So I totally believe that Ro-Ro is a new opportunity for this region.
Yeah. So from a terminal perspective, I would like also to ask Mr. Gary to share your insights about the terminal continuity and the capacity during the volatility which we might face during this period of time.
Thank you, Miguel. Now, but I think the former parts of the discussion are actually quite focused on the Red Sea crisis. But when you're talking about geopolitical tension, I think there is another one, maybe even bigger than the Red Sea crisis. It's actually the tension between East and West. Now, I'm not sure whether I could bring in a new perspective about the geopolitical tension on this topic. Now, so you will see that lately, we have seen a lot of Chinese enterprises setting up their manufacturing plants in Egypt. Now, I have to say this is probably part of the result of the East and West tension. So one of the political issue that will lead to a positive impact to Egypt. Now, I'm sure Egypt is suffering from the Red Sea crisis because like 40% of the vessels that used to call or bypass or passing by Suez Canal was gone. But actually, more and more companies are now factoring up factories in the region. So I'm expecting substantial growth, if not exponential growth, starting 2027. So in terms of terminal capacity, I'm sure that we have to be prepared for this takeoff of the economy. When all these newcomers, when their production lines are already finished and their production line are fine-tuned, by 2027, there will be a takeoff of the both import and export in Egypt. So as a terminal operator, we have to prepare for that. Probably there could be more big vessels calling terminals, so our equipment has to be ready for this. And I'm just speculating. Maybe I would like to hear the views of other shipping lines partners here. So when more and more of these kind of manufacturing companies are setting up their factories in Egypt, probably in the future, there could be more cargoes leaving or exporting from Egypt to US East. So maybe I will see that when you're talking about the reshape the industry, this could be a possible reshaping in the future that I could see.
Absolutely. From my freight forwarding perspective, I would say that the industry is reshaping not only about this current disruption which we are facing, but also the digitalization and the current, let's say, innovation and revolution which is coming with the digitalization which we are facing. We have witnessed currently that our industry is becoming more and more digital. If you look back maybe 20 years ago, our industry was purely based on maybe manual process and so on and so forth. Now we witness huge revolution coming to the AI, coming to the automation of the process and so on. So maybe I would like to also invite the shipping lines. Maybe Engineer Marwan, what do you think about the digital technology in terms of shaping our industry in the future and to deliver most measurable operational gains in the coming future?
Thank you for the question. And I need to tell you that shipping lines are digital companies, right? This is like a declaration. So the digitalization journey has started already long ago, from the point of quotation to offering to tracking, documentation, payment, claims, up to the, so end to end. Different shipping lines have had different routes, but at the end, they all learn from each other. It's one small world, as we all know, and there is a lot of attention given to improving the customer experience when using these digital platforms, making it easier, much less clicks, and much more transparent. That being said, a company I'm involved in, Hapag-Lloyd, had invested in connecting all the fleet by GPS. So all the container fleet of Hapag-Lloyd, not the reefer, all the container, dry boxes, has been fixed on them. And try to imagine fixing millions of boxes around the world with this kind of device, connecting it through GSM. And collectively, they put a system where if all the containers are on board the vessel, they sleep, because they cannot all send information, they are on the same vessel. When they arrive at the port, then they all become alive. Then every container gives you information. So huge data that is coming to shipping lines, look to the shipping line, and working on use cases for theft, use cases for you could put devices, when you open the door, there is light. So the device tells you that there is light. Or zoning, if it goes into a zone, that it tells you it went into that zone. And giving you times with artificial intelligence and just-in-time IoT, then you can also think when the container is going to come back, how can it, where would it come back better, to which customer. So there is a lot of forward thinking and forward planning by integrating the systems together. We can also talk about the relationship with terminals and how we are integrating. It's now more into APIs, more into a stronger relationships. So the whole network of end-to-end supply chain is becoming much more digital, much more transparent, and much more predictable. And this is something very important for customers. I can talk a lot about what happened in the fleets. I can talk a lot about what happened, is going to happen with the workforce and the capabilities, the relationship with the customers, the experience of the customers that is getting better and better. But there is no end to where we are going. It's only a start. We're all digital companies. We cannot now unplug shipping companies from the internet and think they're going to transport boxes. It will not happen. They need to be connected with the customers, with the customs, with the terminals, with the whole ecosystem that has become one small world.
Absolutely. Adding to what you have mentioned, Engineer Marwan, I think we also need to maybe to map what would be the large barriers which might happen in the coming years, and these barriers might I would say challenge the full integration of the digital transformation. What do you think, Engineer Tariq?
First of all, I would like to share our experience at CMA CGM. We are totally convinced that shipping, transportation, and logistics in general, as Marwan said, will be fully automized. It will become like, if we remember before, when we used to book an air flight through the different agents, all those agents disappeared. People will be able to do everything through their mobile. At CMA CGM, we have integrated AI in various areas of our business since almost 2 years. The first one is to select the best routes We have an algorithm that studies our routes, studies our cargo flow, and comes up with the optimized rotation, coupled with doing it in the season, because cargo worldwide is seasonal. The second thing we did is we integrated AI in pricing. So there is an algorithm that classifies the client and enables each client to be put in a tier corresponding to their contribution to the group, not only on ocean freight, but in all activities. I think the barriers will be the infrastructure of the internet networks, how developed the country is, but this gap is disappearing very fast. So I don't think there will be huge barriers, because if you don't catch up, you'll be left behind.
Yeah, but maybe my question now to Marwan, do you think, since we are talking about the barriers, do you think that cost and we can witness the cost of the new technologies and so on can be one of the barriers in the coming period of time?
I think the main barrier currently, in my personal point of view, is the mindset. We're coming in shipping now, everything is being digitalized, transformed. Although this industry was built on physical meetings, knowing your own customers, going to their offices, doing meetings. Plus this also, there is a lot of things, and the gap that's happening between the private sector, or let's say the top 10 container lines, and the government, the customs, the ports, the trucking, is really getting bigger and bigger. You still have to digital solution for all the lines, but when you come to the customs, it's not digitalized enough. When it comes to the trucking process, it's not digitalized enough. So what will happen? That currently, with this gap getting bigger and bigger, you will have bottlenecks. That's what's happening. Of course, the cost is getting cheaper, of course, to develop more digitalization. It's not like a couple of years ago. But the cost of having a cloud, integrating, having IT like developers, all this, of course, is a barrier. But what I'm really afraid of is waking up in the morning saying that couple of the niche carriers had really have a very well set up of transformation, and the small regional, medium-sized companies cannot pay for this quick transformation. And the gap is getting bigger and bigger.
Yep, yep. Mr. Poul, do you agree on that? From your perspective, what maybe the regional operators can stay technologically connected without overstretching the resources?
I think budget, of course, is an issue for a small region. We don't have the same budget than the big MLO, the CMA, or the Hapag-Lloyd of this world. But I think one of the things that I think is important to remember now, if we go back, this is now my statement, it's personal for me, but up to 5 years ago, everything that has happened technological in shipping and in most other industry had one purpose, and that was to save costs. There was not an element of customers in that. It could be that there was some element that there would be a customer advantage, but it was predominantly in order to save cost. Because the shipping industry, whether it's regional or global, it's very marginal. So cost was the driver for it. It reminds me, you all remember 25 years ago when we still went to banks, then they put a machine in a wall, and then we could go and do it ourselves, and that was sold as customer service. Now we have to do it ourselves. Right now we do all our banking at home, online, and we actually being charged for it. It's a little bit the same that happened in the shipping world. But what has changed now is, in the recent years, is there's now more focus on also the customer, looking at what does the customer mean. And for that perspective, I believe that visibility is still what a customer needs today. Particularly now in the tariff situation, there's a lot of uncertainties. Customers, they want visibilities. And this is something that all the shipping lines, including the regional ones, we are focused on giving customer the visibility that they need so they can plan just in time, because just in time means they can save cost. So that's one element. The second element that I think that is important as well is that we have all kinds of systems that we have developed, whether you come from a big shipping line or a smaller one that has been developed over many years. We all have legacy systems. In order that we can really talk about artificial intelligence to help us in the future algorithm, we need data warehouse. We need to bring all our data into one structure and one platform. That's a lot of effort that is being made across the world, because we have realized we can talk as long as we want about artificial intelligence, algorithm. If we don't have one database, it's not going to work, because you can't extract the data. Some of the big international lines, they have worked on that for years, but if you are a regional player like Fulk Maritime, we are right now working very hard on getting those data packed, so we in the future will be able to give a lot more visibility to our customers. A lot more about, if you talk about supermarket, if you talk about Amazon, they spend the majority of their data on consumer behavior. How are we doing our stuff online? That we have not really tapped into yet as in the shipping world, so that we will be able to tell the customer, listen, I think it's about time that you need to do the next booking, because we know from statistics that you are booking every 12 days or 15 days and so on. Those visibilities we only start to develop now. But cut it short, I feel that the next years there'll be a lot more focus on what are we offering our customers, because we have now, most of us, dealt with the cost side. It's now onto the customers and how we can help them with their costs going forward.
Absolutely. So since we are talking about digitalization, and we talked about the barriers, and we talked about what the future can bring about digitalization, we shouldn't forget the sustainability. And of course, when we implemented the digitalization, this will improve as well the green logistics, I would say. And here I might ask also Mr. Gary, from your perspective and in Hutchinson, what do you think about the integration which needed in terminals to really promote the green energy and to shore power solutions?
All right. Now, sustainability to Hutchison is nothing new. And this is even become one of our KPIs annually. If we are not doing it right, it will affect our evaluation, of course, the remuneration package. And in our terminal, in our group, we have a grand plan of replacing all those originally diesel-driven trains or vehicles to electric-driven. Now, in Egypt, actually, we are bringing in the latest technology. In our three new terminals, all the internal trucking will now change to electric trucks, not even including the front loader and reach stacker as well. We'll be using electric-driven vehicles. So this is a commitment for Hutchinson Ports to go sustainability. But of course, if you talk about sustainability, something even bigger than green energy. It's like equality of sex, whatever. So when we are introducing our two new terminals by the end of this year and another one, probably by the end of next year, we'll be deploying remote control technology for our STS cranes and RTGCs, which means in the past, for all those crane drivers, they have to climb long ladders, high ladders to the top, and working day and night in the equipment. But right now, they can actually work very comfortably in the office. So in other parts of the world, we are bringing in a lot of female drivers in that sense. So we will do the same here in Egypt. So that's how we try to achieve the sustainability targets. And when you talk about shore power, for our new projects, for our new terminals, we are ready for the shore power. But probably we will need more guidelines from the government about the legal framework. So I remember like 5 to 10 years before when we are doing shore power in China. So very similar situation we have encountered is that we don't have a legal framework to follow. So we need some legal guideline or framework from the government in terms of safety or whatever, so that we could have a better way to hinge on to start this shore power supply to our customers, shipping line customers.
So since we are talking about shipping line customers, I would like to bring back to Engineer Tariq. Can you please elaborate a little bit about CMA CGM strategy in relation to decarbonization, and what is the current, let's say, strategy in the group related to that, and how we can balance that also with the profitability?
CMA CGM Group Chairman Rodolphe Saada made a commitment that by 2050 we'll have zero carbon emission. It's not easy to find the proper source of fuel that will replace fossil fuels. So for this purpose, we have a fund of $1.5 billion dedicated since 3 years under the name of Pulse to find the adequate fuel to replace fossil fuel, because it's not easy. It will take a lot of research until you find a source of fuel that is green and at the same time economical. We are testing various types of fuels. Last week even we had the first container vessel with sails, two carbon sails, it moving only by wind. It was an experiment, and you can check it on the internet. It's very interesting, but we are seriously committed to this. Also, when you refer to the clients, especially in Europe now, are looking for green products. We have one of our added value services, a green path for the clients to use, because as you know, coming 2026, there will be a carbon tax in Europe. This will cost the clients and the lines. So we are discussing with the clients, especially with the big ones, how can we optimize this. But again, our commitment is firm, and it's not only a commitment. It's when you have a commitment and you put the fund for the research, because you know the optimum fuel is not discovered yet.
Yeah.
This reflects the seriousness.
Yeah. I think the commitment is the key word here. And I think in Hapag-Lloyd as well, Engineer Marwan, there is a commitment in relation to Green Alliance and joint fuel initiatives. Can you elaborate a little bit about that?
Yeah, I just also I confirm that COP27.
Can you raise the volume, please?
Yeah, you hear me? Yeah, COP27, 28. Our CEO, CMA CEO, MERS CEO, they all went to the COP and they all declared in one shipping industry move that they all are committed to cut the emissions. Hapag-Lloyd declared 2045 is zero emission within the 2050 IMO. But let me tell you, there is a good story behind. First, they work on increasing the efficiency by using paint that gives more fluidity for the ships, bulbous bows of the ships that gives less friction, and much more efficient propellers that lower the use of energy by around 20%. That's impressive. I'm a marine engineer. 20% because of a propeller is something huge, right? And that's a lot of money that gets paid back. So first, efficiency. Second, LNG. So lots of ships are LNG enabled, LNG using, and going into methanol. So the 20s are more efficiency, 2030s are LNG and alternative fuel, methanol and others. 2040s are going into real zero emissions. Shipping lines, when they declared that they are going into zero emission, they don't know how, but they are committed. The commitment is much stronger than how. and then they all are committing lots of money into research and development to find which type of alternative fuel, how can you create renewable energy, transport it, make renewable fuel, and what types of fuels. They've been thinking about sails, they're thinking about wind, they're thinking about let's say nuclear energy as also a green energy. So a path to zero emission is set, and now it's all about getting more efficient, bringing better fuels, and then reinventing the industry into where it will go into the 2050 and beyond. So it's a big story, and lots of commitment. Ships cannot have batteries. They're not like cars. They need to go long, for long and huge weights that they move. So it's a very different animal that you need to treat, and it's an impressive direction by the industry owning the greenhouse gas zero emission direction.
Correct. So, Mr. Poul, do you agree on that? What from your perspective, should the regional carriers and marine service providers might need to do in the coming period of time to align with the global environmental standards?
So I think from the regional perspective, we are part of the same pond, the same basket, so we have to achieve the same. However, it's a little bit different. It is the big global shipping line that has to drive this because the cost is enormous. The difference is 3, maybe 4 times for the fuel. So as long as customers are not willing to pay, then you cannot do it. And if you are selling sneakers, then maybe you can get a small additional cent because the customer can see it right there. But if you are selling cement, that goes into a construction that eventually becomes a house, you are so far away from the consumer that you are not focused on how to pay for that extra. So there is still a lot of challenge, and I'm super happy to be part of an industry where the big guys, they are pushing it. If you go to the regional perspective, it's a little bit different. Number one, most of the commodities, if you leave out the vegetables and perishable, is a lower value commodities. It's further away from the consumer, so it becomes a bigger challenge to pass on the additional cost of the green. So there is an additional challenge. There's another challenge is that you cannot build a small feeder vessel economically today on green fuel or dual fuel. It's simply too expensive. So all the ships that has been ordered, all the ships that also CMA, also Hapag-Lloyd have ordered in this small section, they are all conventional fuel because the numbers doesn't match. Eventually, of course, they will have the new green fuel, but only when that green fuel is ready. The economy doesn't match. So for me, the way to move in the regional trade with smaller ships is it's the game of small steps. You do small improvement. You do the paint that was mentioned before. You change a little bit on the rudder. You may slow steam a little bit more. You may have deals with the terminals that they give advice 6, 8, 12 hours so you can reduce the speed and arrive just at time. All of these small steps can give you 20%, perhaps a little bit more. That's how we have to operate as the regional player to move towards and follow the big lines that until the day that we have the Holy Grail and we know the fuel type, then we can invest. But we can only do it then.
Yeah. Mr. Marwan, adding to what has been said from terminal perspective and shipping line perspective and others, from your perspective, what are the best practices which you might have faced during the last period of time and going forward might really affect the pure alignment with the global environmental standards?
Like from my personal experience, we in our company, PAM Marine, we own a couple of vessels. As Engineer Marwan said, we applied the ceramic paints 2 years ago, which have been saving around 17 to 18%. It differs on the vessel design and fuel consumption. I totally believe there should be a transition period where we will be using like technology or retrofits on propellers, chemicals to decrease even the consumption, slow steaming. But I think the main challenge now to move to alternative fuel or even to LNG is the bunker network. Like if you're talking about the Red Sea, for example, where Folk is operating, we also are operating, there is no single source of LNG bunkering. Nothing. If you just like, even like the global LNG price were just known to everyone in the shipping a couple of years ago. Before this, when CMA ordered the first LNG, it was a confidential agreement between them and Total in Marseille. No one understood what is the unit or the price of supplying LNG. So I see the market moving this direction, but the proper challenge, the real challenge now is there is no enough bunker network that can support whatever type of fuel that will be the alternative or the future or the transition fuel. I think LNG will be the quickest, but is it the fuel we're choosing? I totally doubt, since IMO is pushing in 2050 to be zero emission, and also pushing for 2030 to be around 20 to 30% reduction. So I think the challenge is having a proper network for the new fuels, alternative fuels.
I would also add from my side, I mean, based on my experience in freight forwarding industry, in CEVA logistics as well, there is a lot of strategic initiatives which have been already implemented globally and also in the countries in relation not only to the ocean or air only, but also in the contract logistics part, where meeting the global environmental standards are crucial inside the warehouse and inside the operation itself, either inside the warehouse or also in the handling process outside the warehouse. So this is I think one of the major initiatives which CEVA Logistics and I believe the other international freight forwarders are really working hardly to implement in the coming period of time. I would go into the last part of our session where maybe we need to discuss a little bit about the localization and the regional resilience, which we believe it's applicable in Egypt. And especially that we believe that the government and the country are really pushing into the industrialization. And here in TransMEA, we see that there is another event, which is MEA industry. So the country in Egypt is really pushing into that and also grasping the foreign direct investment into that. So my question now to Mr. Gary, from your perspective, and I know that you have spent some good times in Egypt, I would say. How many years?
This starting my 5th year.
5th year, okay, good. So what from your perspective, after 5 years in Egypt, you might foresee as support the Egypt industrial strategy and the industrial localization in key sectors, in which different sectors the country is really moving to develop in the coming years, according to the strategy 2030, of course.
Well, now, what I have seen is that I have to say Egypt has laid a very, very solid foundation for industrialization. Now, I still remember like 20 years ago when a lot of investment are flocking into Southeast Asian countries. By that time, the biggest challenge for them is actually the infrastructure. If I set up a factory here, how can I transport my materials and finished products to the coastal line and then to export or import? But look at it, look at our country here, Egypt. We have all the facility here to satisfy our needs. We have highways, we have ports, we have everything in place. So that's one of the reasons why when the foreign investment or investor come, they don't need to worry about anything like that. So that's why in just like 11 months, starting the beginning of this year, we have seen like nearly or maybe even over hundreds of factories. Either they have signed the investment proposal or commitment or agreements with Egyptian government, or they already started constructing the production lines here. So we have the infrastructure in place, and this is a very important thing to attract foreign investment. And I have to say, Egypt is ready for it already. But in terms of integration, now when we say key industry, now maybe I can take an example of automobile. Now I have to say we have seen a lot of major brands from China. They have already set up their factories here or in the process of setting up their factories. Now, but then obviously for a lot of them, in the very initial stage, they will be doing assembly here in Egypt only. Not because Egyptian doesn't have the technology or doesn't have the knowledge to do it. It's just that it takes time for the whole value chain to move from any other parts of the world to Egypt. But then when I talk to government officials, senior government officials, I know that they have a vision. They know that when they attract this kind of industries, they have to get the whole value chain or the whole production chain to be here as well. Now look at Quantara West. Now we have attracted a lot of textile industries, from spinning, dyeing, and then the finished goods. So I think I could say probably for textile industries a little bit easier, but it may take a little bit more time for the automobile industries. But we have already kick-started, and the traction is there, and the momentum is there. I'm longing to see a much more comprehensive manufacturing industries here in Egypt.
Absolutely. I think you have mentioned one of the key sectors which Egypt is really, I would say, Egypt is really pioneer in when it comes to the textiles. And if you go to go to many countries all over the world, you might find that the Egyptian textiles and the Egyptian cotton, I would say, we are as Egyptians really proud of that.
Yes.
So,
you know, Egyptian cotton is a very famous brand in Europe.
Yeah.
When you go to supermarkets or some other shops in Europe, you will see Egyptian cotton is a section for Egyptian cotton.
Yeah. So, Engineer Marwan, since we are talking about the industrialization and the manufacturing hubs, what or which regulatory and infrastructure reforms might need to accelerate the manufacturing hubs and the industrialization strategy of the country in the coming years? Yeah, I know it's a huge question, yes.
Right? So, but I tell you, if we look at I talk from a transport perspective, right? And I have different activities there. And let me just give some focus there. So Egypt had a front development of the ports, and Egypt had already won the competitiveness, let's say, positioning in the East Mediterranean. Now we have all the investment came from all the big groups, big shipping lines, and big also terminal operators around the world. They're all here. And they're all operating here or will be operating here. We have CMA operating the terminal in TMT, the terminal, but we have also MSC coming. And Hapag-Lloyd is coming in Damietta, and Maersk is already in East Port Said. COSCO, very near future in Sokhna. And we have also the Arab world investing, DP World, Abu Dhabi Ports, and others. So all that is our enablers are going to bring these shipping lines into a relationship that will continue during the concession years. Investments of $500 to $600 million per terminal will not let these shipping lines leave these ports anytime soon, right? But that being connected, you just look into the hinterland. So terminals now are advanced, lots of equipment. We hear also how green they want to become terminals and how advanced, and there is now some good knowledge on the terminal side. Then we go back, and when we go back, we have now an experience of a dry port, and maybe another dry port that is coming up, but also we need the let's say the movement, and that is truck based and also rail based. Truck-based in Egypt, I think we are a little bit behind. I have an investment in trucking, and I have a strong fleet, right? And I cannot tell you that you need a lot of change when it comes to trucking. It's a lot of small truck owners. They are the ones who overwhelm the business. No one understands what's cost. So when they change a tire, they think that they made an investment. A tire is just like a fuel. You put fuel every truckload, but you change a tire every 20, 30, 40, right? So there is a cost per kilometer, and there is a cost of renewing the fleet. There is a cost of the driver. There is a cost of insurance. Nobody insures their business. So there is a lot to be done on the front of trucking in Egypt when it comes to drivers, trucks, regulations, laws. And it's not only the traffic law that needs to manage the transport, local transport in Egypt, but it should be also the transport ministry and the control of giving licenses to transport companies. Now anyone can buy a truck, have a license, and drive it and deliver a service. And where is the mass possibility, the management of fleets, fleet management softwares, artificial intelligence, and control, and a lot of tools that should be there. So what I would advise is that we give some focus there, and we give some focus from a security and safety perspective because of accidents and loss of life, which is absolutely a challenge, but that is not the only challenge when it comes to cargo, connectivity, trustworthiness, and reliability. So a lot needs to be done on that space if we need to serve the trade and industry and connect it. And I would just give one number. Egypt is exporting for around $40 to $45 billion non-petroleum exports. Turkey is 300 to 400. So we need to 10 times if we want to think Egypt, where do we want to go? So it's a tenfold increase, and it's not an increase in exports. It's an increase in imports also. You cannot increase exports without increasing imports. And then at a certain time, exports are going to fly above the increase of imports and deliver value and much less gap in the trade deficit. So a lot of potential for Egypt. 50% of our population is under 30 years old. So a lot of potential that Egypt can deliver, and the position. So I can only say that the focus that is given by the government, having a minister and a vice prime minister that is focusing on that, is something that is going to give us all a return in the coming mid to long term.
Absolutely, thank you. I think that's a good, I would say, wrap up. But I would like to hear from everyone a single sentence. So, Engineer Tariq, what would be the single factor from your perspective which will define the logistics industry by 2030?
In Egypt or?
In Egypt.
In Egypt, Egypt will transform from an importing country to an exporting country. The market size was stagnant at 2.5 million TEUs, 1.1 import, 1.4 import, and 1.1 export until 2024. This now flipped 2020 after the financial crisis is over and the reforms that has been done. This will, the market will be 3 million TEUs in 2026, 1.8 million export and 1.2 import. There will be a little gap on the equipment. The plan for Egypt to reach 145 billion US dollar exports by 2030, as Engineer Marwan said, you have to have some structural solutions. It's not only the manufacturing, but the logistic has to supply this. In order to supply this, you have to regulate trucking like everywhere else. We are, as Marwan said, we're not that developed in this sector at all. Everybody can take a license. This cannot, this will not sustain the plan. I think, as Gary said, on the infrastructure side, Egypt has really won the competition in the East Mediterranean. We are very much ready for this. With the new verticals, auto, fresh and fruits and vegetables, garment and textiles, even concentrates. Egypt is going to replace Brazil as the main supplier of juice to Europe. There is huge investments in this. So it needs a little bit of a big workshop to really see how logistically, how can you bring the containers to bridge the gap. You have a gap now about 600,000 TEUs between export and import, how to regulate trucking. But I think we are in the proper course.
Absolutely. One single sentence from Mr. Poul and Mr. Marwan about the potential in the logistics sector in Egypt by 2030. What do you see as a single factor which may be a strategic initiative which the country has to really focus in our industry in the coming years?
In Egypt and across Egypt, the most impactful any government can do is to continue to train and educate its talent base. As it was mentioned before, that 50% of the Egyptian population is below 30. That's the same as in Saudi Arabia and most of the other countries there. This is unique from a worldwide perspective. If you can get the talents based right, train them right, allocate them right, then you have a winner. Nobody can beat that. So focus on the talent and use them correctly.
Agree? What do you think, Mr. Marwan?
I think from my point of view, Egypt is like, the future is in Egypt. I totally believe in Egypt. I think by 2030, if we go with the current forecast on GDP, Egypt will be one of the top 10 economies in the world. So I foresee a very big enhancement and increase in the logistics sector by 2030. With our current young population, with our also minimum wage, which is very competitive when we compare us to our neighbors, I believe Egypt will have a very good percentages of export. We will be more on the industrial side. I believe $145 billion export, we can even do better. So as you see, for example, in Turkey now, they are moving to Egypt because of the population, the young population we have, and of course because of the energy prices and the minimum wage. So I totally believe Egypt, the future is ours. I'm blunt about this, and that's why we're investing in Egypt.
Agree. So in conclusion, I think to wrap up our session, I think it's clear that strategic innovation, proper investment in our talents, in our people, mutual collaboration between the relevant strategic stakeholders are key in successful future for the logistics industry in Egypt. I would like to thank the panelists. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your insights. Thank you for the audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Magued.